Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Out in the holler where the secrets creep, garbage can dudes digging mighty deep. Secret societies, shadows in the pines. Operation GCD of American rebels design. Double J searching deep in his brain hole, past layers of melted hops and bone resin. From cults to cover-ups, we're talking about all of that. So watch your sixth friend and the truth we trust. The world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Join us on the journey and enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us to get a little GCD. The world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beam. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Hell, the world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Out in the holler where the secrets creep, garbage can dudes digging mighty deep. Secret societies, shadows in the pines. Operation GCD of American rebels design. Double J searching deep in his brain hole, past layers of melted hops and bone resin. From cults to cover-ups, we're talking about all of that. So watch your sixth friend and the truth we trust. The world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Join us on the journey and enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us to get a little GCD. The world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beam. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, light things ablaze. Hell, the world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze.
Howdy, folks. Your host, Double J, back here, coming at you live from my studio/RV dining room, located directly inside America. Welcome back, folks of the interwebs. Once again, your host, JJ Vance here, host of Operation GCD, and perhaps more notably, not the vice president. Anyhow, folks of the interwebs, thanks for joining me here tonight. We'll be your pilot navigator for tonight's shenanigan-infused journey into the mind of this particular garbage can dude. Good to see you there, Kane B. And I'm not going to lie to you, folks of the interwebs. I got a real barn burner here on deck for y'all tonight. The legend of the NASA 100-mile-per-gallon automobile. This is something I got involved with in my Air Force career, but something many folks have not heard about, I'm sure. And it is, in our day and age of these green energy policies and everyone's hooting and hollering about electric vehicles and whatnot, would you believe that the American taxpayers' money was used to develop what was then a 60-mile-per-gallon Stirling automobile engine? So technology that was based on 200-year-old technology for the engine back in 1980. I believe it was passed in a 79 or legislation by then President Jimmy Carter in response to the ongoing oil embargoes, right? That was going on at the time, and folks were lining up at gas stations and paying a lot of money for fuel, and there was a shortage allegedly, right? Allegedly. So the Department of Energy got tasked with some legislation along with the with NASA and the U.S. Air Force to develop a solution. So we'll be getting into that. So that's what got me interested in kind of this topic. But it is funny how this project was literally shelved, right? Around 1984, I believe it was. So it was put into a warehouse near Cleveland, Ohio, the NASA facility. And, right, I like to joke right next to the Ark of the Covenant, right? From, I believe we're purging tomorrow there, Angel D. So I like to joke right next to Ark of the Covenant from Indiana Jones. Literally, I was there when we, so to speak, unburied this project from that warehouse, right? And allegedly, I got to meet with the head engineer of the project. It was this man there at NASA was the young engineer on the project in the early 80s, and by the end of the 90s when he retired, he was still trying to make this thing happen. So I didn't come across this project until about 2012, and I was only involved with it due to the fact that it was associated with the Air Force, and they wanted someone to drive this automobile from Los Angeles to New York City on one tank of fuel. Again, this is slightly different automobile than we're used to with our modern day combustible engines. And I got a couple video clips here to demonstrate some of that stuff. But it got me interested in these topics of these alternative engineering projects, right? Not the first one that's been shelved. Possibly the first one financed by American taxpayer dollars that was shelved, and largely shelved by Detroit. Because I got an interview, the actual, he was retired by this point in time when I met the man in circa October of 2012, it sounds like, in my brain hole. Anyhow, there was an infamous incident here in Ohio back in the 80s or early 90s. A man develops a water fuel cell where we'll watch a clip on that too. A man by the name of Stan Meyer, right? And he dies in a Cracker Barrel in Grove City, Ohio, in the southern suburbs of Columbus, Ohio. A Cracker Barrel I've eaten at many times. And allegedly he was eating dinner there with his brother, who was the co-inventor in the project, and some Belgian businessmen, and got up from his table, ran out the front door, and said, "I've been poisoned," according to some reports. Allegedly dies of an aneurysm as per his death certificate. But makes you wonder, with all these, the disruptions of ongoing and existing markets, not even just the fuel market, but fuel in general. If you got a water fuel cell, right, that's converting all this hydrogen business. So, and on top of that, these disrupting, technologies, right? It would be a major market disruptor. Not only does the U.S. run on the economy that is backed by oil, has been since at least old Tricky Dick had to go on national TV. What was that, about August 15th of 1971, I believe it was? Told everybody that France wanted their gold back out of Fort Knox, back from, for whatever reason it was collected in World War II or whatnot, and said, "Oh, we got no gold, folks." So ever since then, we've had a petrodollar backed U.S. dollar. So disrupting that would be pretty substantial. But on top of that, we see all this pollution and all these green economy things. Well, these other solutions, these alternative automobile solutions, don't have pollutants. So it makes you wonder why we're shelving products, especially ones financed by taxpayer funds, to only still hoot and holler about these green energy policies, right? But let me play a clip here of a couple of these things I'm talking about. So, funny enough, as I was looking at getting the show together, I saw that there was a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience with NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers. Now, I would never accuse either of those gentlemen to be having an intelligent conversation there. I'm not sure what they talked about, but broken clocks right twice a day. So they brought up the matter of the water-fueled car, So I think that's an interesting way they framed it. And again, Joe Rogan's a lot of things, but one thing he certainly is a major figure as far as starting conversations go in this modern era of our society. So more folks get their news from him than actual news programs. So that's interesting. But let's look at the NASA Stirling automobile engine that was shit canned by Detroit, despite its obvious success.
Stirling engine developed by Mechanical Technology Incorporated for NASA Lewis Research Center and the Department of Energy has been evaluated by a NASA Technology Utilization Program under actual driving conditions. The Stirling engine was installed in an Air Force van. The van's original 150 horsepower diesel engine was replaced by a 75 horsepower Stirling and assigned actual duty service at Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. Air Force operators drove the van throughout the test, serving 10 to 15 aircraft on a flight line, driving from base to aircraft, moving about the field in and around aircraft, stop and go.
So that was one of the clips we'll go over tonight, folks, of the interwebs. And I thank you all for joining me here again to get a little GCD here. Go over some more of the details we'll be discussing tonight on the Patreon side here in this Patreon preview. But it is these, this was a very successful project. I was only, associated with the remake of the project, if you will, the reiteration of it. We dug it out of a warehouse, literally. And it was actually the release of that video on the interwebs that we just saw a clip from. That's what helped us out as far as getting this project off the ground, because we got all the original equipment right from NASA finally. Because for years NASA was telling the inventor of the project that I was associated with, the reiteration of it, that these things didn't exist. So as soon as there was proof of it via this video that was released, so early on in the Obama administration, again, broken clocks are right twice a day. Early on in the Obama administration, he signed executive action saying any government organizations that had VHS videos and whatnot in their archives had to digitize them and put them on the interwebs, right? So as a result of that video got released and proving that the project did exist and was successful and it had equipment from it, et cetera, et cetera. And the congressman who approved at the time, who sat on the committee that approved NASA's budget, told NASA, gave them the video, said, you give these science folks this equipment or you're not getting a budget this year. So that was September maybe of 2012. They shit out that thing first of the fiscal year, October 2012. So NASA was they wanted their budget that year apparently. So that's how that came about. And again, I was kind of already associated with the project going in there. As far as the driver goes, the Air Force wanted a cop who was experienced in convoy training, and the people associated with this project wanted the same. So that's how I came about in the matters. And that largely this project was focused out of San Antonio, Texas, where I had been stationed at various headquarters assignments for the Air Force military police. So that's how I kind of got around. That's how I got associated with these matters. But it was an interesting thing to have a perspective to, because again, I got to not only talk to the engineer from the original project who retired as the head of that location of NASA in Cleveland, right? So he gave me the whole rundown from start to finish on how the project kept getting stopped over about a 20-year period, right? So that was interesting, but also just going and literally digging this thing out of a warehouse, Indiana Jones style. So that's where we found the NASA car. It was right next to the Ark of the Covenant, I think. Like I said, this was probably 10 years in the making before that congressman threatened the folks at NASA. You know, it's already about 8 or 10 years of them denying that these things even existed, right? So that's interesting, right? But let's look at that other vehicle. So there was that incident here in Ohio, just not far from me, where that fella got seemingly murdered. You know, if you look on the interwebs, they'll describe it in various capacities today like that never happened. And who knows where his technology went, because there's a question about that too. Now, there is a website of the man's, and he's got all of his patents up there. He's got his death certificate up there, whoever runs it, right? But nonetheless, we don't have this water fuel cell today. That's for damn sure. And some folks will claim it never existed, you know, across the interwebs today, right? This seemingly a campaign to shitcoat the matter.
In this clip, Joe and Aaron discuss Stanley Myers, the man that created the water-powered car, and the mysterious circumstances around his demise. Check it out.
The guy who created the water car who yelled, they poisoned me. And then he dies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about that?
How about that?
Research gone.
You imagine you're some Texas oil guy and you find out about some dipshit in Long Island that figured out a water car. Like, can't we send someone up there to talk to this fella?
Up there.
Yeah, like you're realizing your empire's about to collapse in front of your face.
And the fact that actually happened.
Yeah. What happened to the water car? Apparently you drive across.
So I think that was a good introduction to this water car and kind of the circumstances surrounding it. And again, good for them, because it's a big audience they're introducing the subject to. And I do think it's a pertinent subject to discuss, because everyone wants to talk about, you know, pollutants and, you know, green energy stuff and all this other nonsense. We have functional things that achieve those goals today. We've had them for decades and no one uses them, right? So there's obviously more to that racket. But in regards to this water car, it's very fascinating. And I think while preparing the show, I came across another conspiracy, you know, culture podcast host describing this water car in great detail, and articulated that well. But he also articulates what I like to describe here on Operation GCD, basically every Wednesday now, these occult and or esoteric film reviews, meaning there's hidden stories of factual basis that are often described to us in fiction in our modern era in Hollywood films, right? And in this clip right here, I think this guy articulates that very well.
I'm Richard Serrett. Welcome to The Conspiracy Show. The Water Engine is a play by David Mamet about a young amateur inventor who designs an engine that runs on, well, water. But his plan to patent this disruptive alternative energy technology is met with violent suppression. Mamet's play, set in 1934 New York, was a work of fiction. Or was it? There have been numerous attempts by real-life inventors to create a water-fueled car, a device that can produce fuel from water with no other energy input. The ability to extract the chemical potential energy directly from water, in excess or in equal proportion to the energy required to facilitate such production, is, mainstream science says, a violation of the first and second laws of thermodynamics. But one inventor in particular, Stanley Meyer, claimed that is exactly what he did. And it is suspected among the conspiratorial-minded that Stanley Meyer, just like the inventor in David Mamet's play The Water Engine, met with violent opposition to his disruptive alternative energy technology.
Well, there you go, folks of the interwebs. I think that's an excellent point that fellow's making in regards to the same things I like to discuss here in regards to the occult and esoteric film reviews. So I got one coming up next Wednesday, actually, July 23rd, regarding an occult and esoteric review of the film The Nice Guys. And I don't want to get too much into that plot line, but that's like an esoteric storyline in a film inside an esoteric storyline in a film. And to demonstrate that point, let me play a brief clip from that show, or from that film.
Would you mind starting from the top?
Okay. I made a film with Dean, my boyfriend. And the idea was that we were gonna, make this experimental film, an artistic film.
Porno film?
That's just the commercial element, okay? Okay? Sid said we had to have that. And the reality was we were getting our message out there. And it was all in the film. Names and dates and everything that my mom was doing. And once it was out there, once it was in theaters, there's no way that they could suppress it. There's no way that they could cover it up.
So let me get this straight. You made a porno film where the point was the plot.
What's your hang up, man?
First of all, I want to say thank you.
So that film takes place in the early 70s in Los Angeles, or I believe the mid 70s. And they're discussing this major pollution matter going on and whether or not Detroit's going to actually require catalytic converters in their automobiles to stop the pollutants from being produced from their engines. And you saw that young woman's mother is played by actress Kim Basinger. She's the U.S. attorney for California there, who's colluding with Detroit in these matters to prevent them from having to be required to do so, right? Required to install catalytic converters, right? So which again is interesting, especially relative to tonight's topic here, folks of the interwebs, because that Stirling automobile engine developed by NASA, the Department of Energy, and the U.S. Air Force, and redeveloped by a team of scientists that I was a part of, not the science part, but I was the driver in the project. Well, there wouldn't be any issues of catalytic converters and stuff like that with the use of the Stirling automobile engine. And let me play a clip for y'all in that note.
Current engines are a major contributor to the severe atmospheric pollution in our cities today. Exhaust emissions were evaluated, and the Stirling engine met federal emissions standards. No catalytic converter or particulate trap was needed. The exhaust is cool and clean. The Stirling engine can help reduce these pollutants to meet even the most stringent California standards. Also, several maintenance.
Well, there you go, folks. Even the most stringent California standards, right? And that's back in 1984 when that film was produced, right? So it begs the question, why we do these matters here today when we have such things available to us technology-wise. And even that inventor Stan Meyer, his purpose in the 1990s was American dominance, right? That's what he said he invented that for in the first place, that water cell. You don't have to take my word for it. Just listen to Stan Meyer himself.
And the top, our news here at 6 o'clock, an age-old dream becoming a reality. A local inventor has discovered a way, hear this, to use water to run your car.
It's a major breakthrough that will no doubt make motorists happy. And as Ralph Robinson explains, the Pentagon is also showing lots of interest in this project.
Water has always been considered a precious commodity, but Stan Meyer's invention may make it even more valuable. He has developed what's called a water fuel cell. It has taken the place of his old gas tank. The water fuel cell breaks down water molecules into oxygen and hydrogen. The hydrogen is used to run his dune buggy.
I don't care if you use rainwater, well water, city water, ocean water. If you don't have any fresh water, go ahead and use snow. If you don't have any snow available to you, they use salt water because there's no adverse effect to the fuel cell.
Meyer started working on this project 4 years ago.
Well, we got a better explanation of the fuel cell, but that was not the clip I was looking for. Please stand by.
Years ago, he's not a scientist. He isn't even a chemist. In fact, he never graduated from college. Myers was determined, he says, to design something to protect this country from oil embargoes.
And we have calculated that if we take the dune buggy from Los Angeles to New York, we would roughly use 22 gallons of water.
So there you go, folks of the interwebs. The oil embargoes is what motivated Stan Meyer to, who, for whatever reason, with no experiences of scientific efforts or training, to develop this fuel cell, which would then remove the use of gasoline for the automobile. And that's a major disruptor, obviously, to a lot of things. Obviously, the removing all the parts and pieces from an automobile like that with a Stirling, that's a major disruptor, right? No longer do you have the need for maintenance. Fuel changes no longer necessary. I'm sorry, fuel changes. Well, for the water cell car, that's accurate. But for the Stirling automobile engine, oil changes no longer needed, right? No longer needed. So 100 miles per gallon, no catalytic converters, no exhausts, runs cold. You know, what are we talking about here, folks, when we're passing all these legislations for environmental purposes and green energy nonsense? In fact, NASA even cites in their project, the DOE and Air Force there in the Stirling project, that can be used in any capacity, homes, power plants, etc. The Stirling technology they developed, right? So makes you wonder, folks. Makes you wonder. But, you know, these esoteric tales in these films is what interests me as well. So tune in next week for more on that from a Shane Black film, the guy who did Lethal Weapon and knew all about that Iran-Contra stuff long before the public did, right? Knew all about those programs of Bill Colby, that is, right? Air America, the drug trafficking, Operation Gladio, the domestic terror campaigns for purposes of social engineering and to pass tyrannical laws, you know, like the Patriot Act, and the Phoenix program. As author Dave McGowan cites in his Program to Kill book, it is the serial killer phenomenon is the Phoenix program come home. All the tyrannical wet dreams of Bill Colby's queers. Not a commentary on their sexual proclivities, but the strange and odd effect in nature they've had on our society that we still have yet to be able to effectively explain. But Shane Black knew about a lot of that stuff and wrote it in the film Lethal Weapon. We covered that here on Operation GCD in the last film review. And this one here, Shane Black wrote and directed this one. So tune in for more on that one. And then this Wednesday, it's going to be a happy birthday to America, in a sense. Not the July 4th version, but July 16th was the day that Washington, D.C. was born. It's also the day I was born. So I'm also going to be discussing founding father assassinations, whereas a number of founding fathers were murked on July 4th. Not 1776, obviously, but later July 4th. I would argue including George Washington, who seems to have been poisoned on July 4th. 1799, when he handed over the reins of the Society of the Cincinnati, the president general of such, to Alexander Hamilton. So, who was murked a few years later in 1804, not on July 4th, but nonetheless. So that'll be this Wednesday, folks of the interwebs, Operation GCD Live. And then tune in Thursdays, Volume 5 in the Anatomy of the Satanic Panic. We're obviously unpacking the ideas. The pretense of this series is obviously there was a satanic panic. It was a well-organized, well-orchestrated propaganda campaign to deter folks' attention away from the actual real-world satanic murders of humans, animals, and satanic ritual abuse of children, largely at daycares, much like the Presidio, where old Muppet Mikey Aquino, the non-Muppet version, was cited by numerous victims. We've gone over a lot of those and set in the foundation of this series. And one of the characters we intersected with old Muppet Mikey here last week on the Geraldo Rivera primetime special about satanic panic in 1988. Back when there was only 3 channels, most of America tuned in, folks. And old Michael Aquino here was sitting next to Ted Gunderson on the stage. Retired FBI, thought he was going to be director after Hoover. One of Hoover's sidekicks on his personal staff for many years. Nonetheless, he was a major figure in orchestrating a lot of the tomfoolery around the satanic panic, being, I'm Uncle Ted, I'm here to save everybody. And, we went over relative to the McMartin preschool scandal where he infiltrated one of the victims' families there. And that single mother didn't have anything nice to say about Ted. He took all the parents there, McMartin, to the site with shovels. At the same time, that woman that he had been living with, the McMartin victim parent, the single mother there, that he infiltrated her house and apparently was, mooch and offer, big freeloader Ted too, apparently. She would state later that he talked to Michael Aquino every day. So this is after they're on that TV show together, in fact, and around the same time as well. So that's interesting. But it is Ted Gunderson who takes the parents of McMartin, many of them, to the site with shovels. At the same time, a group of the other parents, including the woman he had been living with, hired an archaeological team from the local university, UCLA, to conduct an actual survey. That report's been public since 1993, yet all we get is Uncle Ted and the shovels, and there was no tunnels at McMartin, right? Even though the archaeological survey concluded there was a tunnel network underneath that school. So that was the biggest one of the biggest court cases in LA County history, longest running, most expensive, and a circus. And one man has been involved in every circus in LA County's court history as far as these big circus trials go. And that's the LA District Attorney who dropped many of the charges in the McMartin case, Charlie Manson's friend, Ira Reiner. Not my words, his. Ira Reiner was asked by Charlie Manson in the trials back in 1970, the Manson family, or 71 there, I believe is when he came on, to be representative to one of the Manson girls. So citing him as a personal friend to Charlie. So he would later be the district attorney, not the one that brought the charges in McMartin, but certainly the one that dropped the charges, right? He would also later be involved in the O.J. Simpson case as one of these new media pundits, as he just got out of office. So we see the Manson trial, biggest, longest running, most expensive, Ira Reiner. We see the McMartin case, same pattern, Ira Reiner. Then that's only beaten by the O.J. Simpson case, as longest running, most expensive bit nonsense and circus, right? So I'm just saying, common thread, one of Charles Manson's friends nonetheless. But we do see Ted Gunderson playing an important role in these matters, not just that McMartin matter, but many, many other matters in the Satanic Panic. And obviously, I'm of the opinion that Uncle Ted wasn't being very objectively honest about any of his activities, but at the same time, I don't throw the baby out with the bathtub, folks. So we'll be going deeper into the foundational understanding of who Ted Gunderson is and what his role was in the Satanic Panic, on above what we covered in previous shows here this week. But that'll be Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, folks. So on that note, appreciate you folks joining me here tonight to get a little GCD. And thanks again, and catch this broadcast in the future. Pop on over to patreon.com, Operation GCD, to catch the full show. And folks of the interwebs, come on over, join us over there. And those folks of the Patreon membership, I'll see you over there momentarily. And appreciate the chat. Try to keep up. Y'all are faster than me, way faster. So, and on that note, I'll catch you folks next time.
Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Out in the holler where the secrets creep. Garbage can dudes digging mighty deep. Secret societies, shadows in the pines. Operation GCD of American rebels design. Double J searching deep in his brain hole. Past layers of melted hops and bone resin. From cults to cover-ups, we're talking about all of that. So watch your sixth friend in the truth we trust. The world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Join us on the journey and enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us to get a little GCD. Yeah, the world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo coats ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Out in the holler where the secrets creep, garbage can dudes digging mighty deep. Secret societies, shadows in the pines. Operation GCD of American rebels design. Double J searching deep in his brain hole, past layers of melted hops and bone resin. From cults to cover-ups, we're talking about all of that. So watch your sixth friend and the truth we trust. The world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Join us on the journey and enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us to get a little GC. Hey, world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo coats haunt the moon's pale beam. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, light things ablaze. Hell, the world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze.
Boom!